today's popular culture, there's a lot of mythology around it. It means a lot of different things to different people, but the phrase love, peace, and music would sum it up pretty well.
It just stands for peace, unity, people being tolerant of each other and being respectful of each other.
Most people think of the Woodstock Festival. The town of Woodstock is often credited with being where the festival was because of the name, but it was actually 50 miles due west at the town of Bethel.
I guess they had a lot of problems in 1969. They were supposed to do it in Middletown or Walk Hill, and they ended up making an agreement with a local farmer, Max Yazger, to come into his beautiful property that he has and put up the event. People come in all the time. They have different experiences and recollections of what the Woodstock event meant to them. A lot of them were there. A lot of people still live there that were at the original event. Some went to the event and never left, so they're still here. So it's just a varied amount of stories and good recollections. There's a certain vibe that goes along with the Woodstock event. And town of Bethel is proudly the only town in the world that could claim that the Woodstock event happened here. And we take a lot of pride in that.
The time that it happened, there was a lot of turmoil. Vietnam was happening. There was turmoil in the government with people standing for different things. The whole hippie movement was peace, love, stop the war. And the other side of that was people standing up for our troops and our government and doing what they felt they needed to do. But in spite of it happening at that time, people came together and proved that you can have a gathering of people without turmoil.
It mainly appealed to the young because there was a big divide between the old and young back then. The young people were rebelling at that time because of what was going on in America. We had a good idea of what should be and what shouldn't be, and we started to question things. Why were cities burning? Why were we fighting a war in Vietnam? Why aren't we all treated equally? Why can't we raise our concerns about what's going on without being reprimanded? It was a very different culture back then, and there was a great divide.
It was a different generation. They were looking for freedom, coming to terms with themselves and finding themselves, expressing themselves, just being free.
Every day as a young person, you were afraid that possibly you wouldn't be alive the next day. That's how dramatic it was. We watched body bags coming back in color on the 6 o'clock news. The possibility of going to Vietnam and fighting in an unpopular war. Watching our black brothers being hosed in the street. Watching people being treated unfairly. These things were really powerful. And through the music, we were able to say what we couldn't say. Because when you protested back then, you were roughed up, you were beat up, you were thrown in jail or worse. The music gave us a way to express our angst and our concerns and our fears. And they did it in such an eloquent way that the message got through.
You know, at the time in 1969, rock was not always an accepted form of music. It was more of a way to rebel. People related to that. And that was just one way to do it, man. 3 days of rock music. So I think that was very significant. It might not work with other forms of music.
I'm not sure another genre would have come across the way rock did, because the bands at those times were kind of expressing the same thing the youths were. Freedom, free love, being tolerant of each other, peace. That whole genre of music kind of expressed what the youth were expressing.
I think all types of music, to a certain extent, have some message, but I don't think that the music is connected really to the social issues that are so relevant today, the same social issues that we had back then. The problem is that we're not connecting in the right way with our music.
The unrest that's happening now, different than it was then, but it's still unrest. And you do see a lot of youth becoming aware of that and standing up against that. That's a great thing to see. They're standing up like we did, and that's a great thing. You want the youth to be aware. You want them to stand up. You want them to voice their opinion because they're the leaders of the future. So why wouldn't we want them to be listened to and express themselves? The appeal for me to keep coming back to the reunions and the celebrations was the people. It was the atmosphere, the general feel, which was pretty much shared throughout the whole group that attended. Would there be any problems? Yeah, few, seldom. You're not going to get that many people together and not have any problems.
With the rain and the weather and the shortage of food that was experienced and the medical issues that we're having. But what's amazing is that people were able to get together, focus on just peaceful, loving kind of things. So it's something unique that's probably never happened before in that scale. And that's what I think is what's celebrated.
It's the atmosphere. It's the whole attitude of people gathering together for the celebration.
A festival is just that. It's a celebration. It's not just one artist. It's a bunch of artists sharing with the people in the field the entire experience. And it's a sharing experience. It's not an individual thing. Woodstock was not any individual performer on that stage. Woodstock was everyone together, performer, non-performer. There never could have been a Woodstock without the audience. And the performers were so special because they had the message that we wanted to hear. And so you can't have one without the other. I mean, you have to have someone able to verbalize the message, and you have to have receptors. And we had that, and that's what made it work. And that's the type of festival I would prefer to see today. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know.
I would think that if the same thing happened again, that there would be the same vibe, you know, the same peace and togetherness that was exhibited then. I would think would be the same thing today.
If I could pick what I wanted for the 50th, I would get whoever's left of the older bands that actually were there. Then I personally would add in some newer jam band, just because that's the kind of stuff I want to hear. But I think you need to offer more than that too. Otherwise, you're only going to appeal to one aspect of society. So spread it out and bring in some other genres, just to get people together. Because that's what it's about, it's getting people together.
My idea of a perfect 50th anniversary probably would be a free concert, open to anyone that wanted to come, with camping allowed on the grounds or nearby, with as many acts that wanted to perform. I wouldn't mind different genres, as long as everyone had an opportunity to perform and you could go and listen where you wanted to. I would like to see many more young people. If you can bring people in through different avenues, I think it's a good idea to try. Woodstock is not specifically a place. Woodstock is a feeling, it's a belief, it's something bigger than the place itself, okay? It can never happen again. There are too many influences that came together at one point in time to make it happen, the actual event. But what grew out of that, a realization, a epiphany of sorts, where we realized that, hey, there's a lot more involved here. We are more than the sum of our parts right now. We have encapsulated everything that was important to us as young people in one spot, but now we got to go out and we got to reach everyone else.